Hello, my name's Ben.
And my name's Josh.
Welcome back to FPL Graduates and welcome back to another video where today we'll be talking about something slightly different and new in the FPL world. The assistant manager chip has just been revealed. We're going to talk you through everything about this chip and what this exactly means for your FPL teams. So let's get into it.
Okay then, so yeah, the assistant manager chip got revealed today on the time recording, probably yesterday for you guys watching this. We're going to give our first initial thoughts to the chip and sort of some of the history, I guess you could say, of the chip and how it has worked in sort of previous use cases. So we're going to talk about Iraola this season, Arnie Slot this season, and even Oliver Glasner towards the back end of last season in some like double game week sort of opportunities as well. So yeah, should be really fun. If you're unsure what we're on about, basically the whole mystery chip thing is this. So yeah, it's going to be released in Game Week 24. So let's get straight into it.
Okay, so initially the main things to note here, guys, is that for every win a manager gets, you get 6 points. If the manager draws, you obviously get 3, and there's extra points for goals scored and clean sheets. So there's 3 different ways really that you can attain points from the assistant manager chip.
Yeah, and for the goals, you get 1 extra point. For the clean sheets, you get in 2 extra points for those. So yeah, on the basis of this, loads of points to be had. But you can also get table bonus as well. So what this means, if the manager that you've selected is 5 places lower than the manager that they're facing, so for example, if you pick Ruben Amorim and they're facing Arsenal for a game, say if Manchester United were somehow to win that game 2-0, you'd get 10 points instead of the 6 points for the win. You'd get 5 points instead of the 3 points for the draw. So there is a sort of a beneficial side to maybe picking a manager that's lower down the league if you think that they can have an uptick of form over some fixtures where they're going to face teams that are higher than them in the league. We're going to go on to some examples of that with Iraola in just a second.
Okay, so first of all, we're going to go into how some of these managers could potentially get their points. We're going to go to an example from Game Week 8, 9 and 10 with Iraola. Of course, they did beat Arsenal 2-0. So obviously they would get the win points. So that's 6 points on the board. Of course, Arsenal were placed more than 5 places higher than Bournemouth. So that obviously gives them a huge bonus of 10 points. The goals scored obviously means 2 points, 1 point per goal, with a clean sheet being 2 points. So a huge 20-point haul. As you can see with Aston Villa, there was a draw there, a 1-1 draw. So Areola picked up 3 points from that. Obviously, with the table bonus, there's an extra 5 points in that for him as well. 1 goal equals 1 point. 0 clean sheets equals 0 points for 9 points. And then, of course, they finished off that run against Manchester City with another win and table bonus, as well as a couple of goals without the clean sheet for 18 points. So if you're looking at sort of, if you use that chip then and set it for Game Week 8, you would have got 47 points. So it's a pretty good return on investment if you were to use Areola there.
Yeah, but obviously some people might not be inclined to, pick a certain set of fixtures. I mean, going into that run, you would definitely be worried about what the results Bournemouth would have got. So you might want to opt for a safer option and go with someone like Arnie Slot and Liverpool, who have obviously performed to the absolute maximum this season. So here's an example from Game Week 1 to 3. Obviously, they started the season really well with 3 wins on the bounce. And as you can see, there's obviously no table bonus for them because they were top of the league pretty much throughout the whole period. And yeah, so you can still score relatively well. Obviously 47 points compared to the 31 of Slot. I think it all depends your sort of risk appetite. We will get onto double game weeks in a moment as well, but if you're looking to play this in single game weeks and you just want a steady sort of performance, I don't see why going for someone like Liverpool or Arnie Slot would be a problem. Obviously you got to bear in mind the factor of the pricing as well, but yeah, 31, 47 points. There's a lot of points to be had with this chip.
1 point to make here as well with this is each manager has a set price between 0.5 million and 1.5 million. That won't change through the season. There won't be any price rises or falls. One thing to note with that is that comes straight out of your budget. You don't get an additional 1.5 million in the bank to do this. So obviously FPL have been clever with the time that they're doing this. Of course, everyone's had price rises. Team value is a lot higher now than it was at the start of the season. So you're going to have to bear this in mind, especially for wildcarding over the second half of the season, to potentially leave up to 1.5 million in the bank in case you want to play this chip.
Yeah, another thing to note as well, a lot of people are asking, especially on Instagram, where does that money go when you've sort of used the chip? It will just go back into your bank, I guess you could say, and then you'd have to use another free transfer to sort of bring in a player with that 1.5 million if you were to want to use up to 1.5 million. In terms of the prices for the managers, that's not been released just yet, but you could probably expect the likes of Slot, Guardiola, Arteta, etc. to be 1.5. I'd expect someone like Amorim, maybe someone like Hertzler at 1 million, and then probably the relegation sort of guys like Kieran McKenna, Russell Martin down at 0.5 million. Okay, then so we're going to look at the top point scoring managers so far this season. So as you can see, Iraola is top, massively helped by that 47 pointer 3 game week score. He's got 113. Eddie Howe 100 points. Again, you're probably going to, well, if you are going to look towards that route of targeting, the more table bonus, I think looking down the table, there are a couple teams that currently stand out. Obviously, this chip isn't available for 8 game weeks' time, so a lot can change in that time. But, Crystal Palace down in 17th. I think United are in 13th, Newcastle in 12th. These are sort of teams that you could easily foresee, at least challenging some of the better opposition in the league. And obviously there's teams up in the top 6 at the moment, like Brighton, Brentford, teams that can concede goals and potentially lose points. So yeah, overall it looks fairly solid. I think some interesting names in here are like Gary O'Neill at 35 points as one of the best 3 game week scores. So yeah, it could be very rogue. If you've got a favourite manager, maybe go for them.
Yeah, it makes sense as well why FPL sort of have chosen to do this within the second half of the season, because of course in the first half of the season it's so topsy-turvy with the fixtures and with who's placed where. The table does tend to even out after 15 to 20 game weeks, so you can see why they've done this as a second half of the season chip and not revealed what it is.
Yeah, and as you can see on screen, this is what it sort of looks like when you do activate the chip. Obviously, the chip's not going to be available until Game Week 24, as I keep saying. But yeah, basically just next to your bench, you're going to have a little image of your manager, whoever you do choose.
Okay, so rounding off some of the key points that you need to take away from this video. First of all, it starts in Game Week 24. You cannot use this chip beforehand, so you need to start getting planning on when you're going to use it.
Yeah, obviously the chip does last 3 consecutive game weeks, so you can't pick and choose which game weeks you want to use it in. Some people have also asked, can you use other chips in and amongst it? No, you can't. It's literally, you've got to use that chip and that chip only for those 3 game weeks.
Yeah, one thing to note as well is the managers actually count towards the 3 player per rule club. So if you've got a triple up on Arsenal at the moment, you wouldn't be able to go with Mikel Arteta unless you transferred out one of your Arsenal players.
You can also transfer your manager during that 3 game week run. So say if you did start with Arteta, like Ben just mentioned, you can move them to Arne Slot for the 2nd game week, and then maybe if you wanted to go to Guardiola for the 3rd game week. They do use up your free transfers though, like it would any other transfer in FPL.
Yeah, and your manager transfers do come out of your original budget, so be aware and make sure to have a little bit of money in the bank, especially for those that are wild carding. You're going to want to leave a bit of money in the bank in case you want to hit this chip.
Yeah, and also double game weeks do count towards the fixtures. So obviously Liverpool will have a rescheduled double game week later in the season. That fixture with Everton. So if you were to have Arne Slot for that run, he would have 4 fixtures during that sort of run of using the chip. There's an example in the article from the Premier League where Oliver Glasner last season, if we remember when Mateta was absolutely booming with those massive hauls towards the back end of last season in the doubles, if he was to use it then in those 4 fixtures for Palace, Glasner would have scored you a huge 67 points. So there is real potential to be using this chip in a double game week. If you've maybe already used your triple captain maybe earlier in the season, this is a prime time to use this chip in a double.
Yeah, one thing to mention, of course, if you haven't used your triple captain chip, you cannot use that chip within the 3 game weeks if you decide to hit the assistant manager chip. So be aware again of that. You can't use any other chips. So if you're gonna use it, be strategic. Make sure you're making full use of all your chips in FPL, because you're gonna have that one extra to contend with.
Yeah, and the final point is that you can't captain your manager. Fairly self-explanatory. So yeah, it's going to be a really interesting sort of new chip and new dimension to the game. I know it's got a lot of mixed reviews on social media so far. For me personally, I think it's quite exciting. There's a new way to earn points in a sort of a different way as well compared to the sort of player basis that we've usually had. Ben, what's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, really interesting, and something that I don't think's really been done too much before. So yeah, it's really exciting, and I'm very much looking forward to getting planning. It's another element of free game weeks where we can plan, and those managers that really do plan their FPL teams well will have yet again another edge over those casual managers.
Yeah, it definitely does sort of warrant and reward the engaged manager. So make sure to stay tuned and subscribe to our channel if you are going to be looking for some strategy videos. We'll have some closer to the time of when the chip does launch. Obviously, we've got at least 8 game weeks before you can first use it. So yeah, we'll be holding off on the content just for a little while until that comes around.
Yeah, absolutely. A few game weeks to go, and as always, if you like the video, remember to give it a like, comment, and subscribe to the FPL graduates. I've been Ben,
I've been Josh.
and we'll see you guys
Next time. Have a good game week, everyone.
So you